Tom Brady joining us live now from an undisclosed location. I'll just say it's nice, and he's got a better studio than I do today. All right, 23 years, 7 Super Bowls, 5 MVPs. You said something recently at Michael Rubin's, at Michael Rubin's place, brilliant guy for Fanatics, and you were there, and I want to play this bite because I had a little pushback on this. Roll that bite of Tommy.
You have 53 guys on the team, and you think it's about you. It ain't about you. It's about us. And the biggest problem I see with a lot of the young players today, you guys are making it too much about I and me because of social media, because of branding and all that. It's fine. You're not going to win. There was a difference between being a star and being a champion.
So I heard that, and I said, in your era, you may have had a star quarterback coming out of college every 5 years, an Elway, a Peyton Manning. But even a Big Ben was a nobody. Even you out of Michigan, you're battling for starts. Could I make the argument that it's virtually impossible to come out of college, now you're paid NIL, to come out of college and not be a bit of a celebrity, that it's harder to avoid those trappings today, Tom, than it was in your era?
Yeah, that's a great point. I really, that kind of hit home for me when I went to the University of Michigan. I forgot we had lost in one of the playoff rounds, and Coach Harbaugh invited me back to do a national signing day. And it was Jared Jeter was there, and they almost formatted the day at Michigan as the NFL draft. And all these kids were basically coming from high school to college. And I remember leaving there that day thinking that it was a great event for the University of Michigan. And it was a really cool event for a lot of the players and the families who were being recruited out of high school. But at the same time, I think we were doing a real disservice to those young aspiring athletes because we were giving them so much fame and notoriety just for playing high school football. And you're right. I think a lot of the things that we see now, because of really the digital age and the proliferation of information spread so quickly to everywhere, there are so many young high school athletes that are getting notoriety and fame, and you're just at such a young developmental type of age. And it's just a challenging thing for your brain to wrap your head around. So much, I think, when I look back to when I was coming out of college, when I was basically getting into the pros, there were such few outlets to cover you that you really felt like you had to do a great job. You had to do great things to get noticed. And that was really the motivation. Man, if I could ever get on the cover of a Sports Illustrated, if I could ever get written about in the local paper, that would mean that I did something really extraordinary. And that was not always the motivation, but that was really the effect of what you put out as an athlete. And today it's obviously just so much different. So I don't know, I think resilience and determination, overcoming adversity, those are really sustainable traits in players and athletes and obviously entrepreneurs, businessmen. Look at you. Look at all the things you've had to overcome. And I just don't want us to give so much to the younger generation before they really have the full perspective on what those things mean for them. So I recognize that change at Michigan that day. That was really like a punch in the gut for me to go, wow, we're probably gone a little too far with this, but naturally the pendulum kind of swings back. And I just hope these young athletes can really understand what's really going to make their career, not their brand or their physical ability, but their connection with their teammates, their leadership ability, them wanting to put the team first above individual goals and recognition. When they show up every day, they are thinking, what can I do to help the team win? Because that's the most fulfilling part about team sports is winning.
Yeah, it's funny, Tom, I never want to disincentivize my kids. I always had the rule of the 3 C's. I said, if you could be curious, compassionate, and competitive, you're going to have a great life. And competitive's hard because Dad's going to have a nice home. We'll go on good vacations. And you were known to me, of your many gifts, you had the right height. You had the work ethic. You're a smart guy. You're really competitive. And I think to myself, you can't be competitive jet skiing. How does Tom Brady, and in a weird way, I think to myself, I get competitive. The broadcasting thing. Because you're going to get people take shots at you and be snippets. So have you found yourself already with broadcasting, watching your tapes and getting hyper competitive? Is that just sort of who you are?
There are definitely parts of me that are hyper competitive, and certainly the game. If it was ping pong, if we were playing trash ball in the locker room, I wanted to win. There's other parts where I feel like I've matured a little bit, and I don't necessarily have to be absolutely competitive in everything. It's a little more selective. I think if I want to put effort into something, then naturally I'll be more competitive at it, because I'll invested a little bit of my time, a little bit of my energy into it. Certainly with the broadcaster, I don't think for me it's about competition. I think for me it's about, did I put everything I could into it, and did I give the fans everything that they tuned in for?
Yeah.
And that's really how I'll end up gauging myself, and I'll have to look at myself at the end of every Sunday night going, did I do a good enough job? Did I live up to the belief that Fox had in me? Did I live up to the expectations of my teammates, Kevin Burkhardt and Aaron and Tom and Richie Zions and Rich Russo and our entire truck, the entire team? That's ultimately how I judge myself in that new role.
Yeah, good guys to work for. I just saw a story. Sean Payton was texting me last night about Bo Nix and how happy he was with him. And then he talked about it publicly. And we thought it was a good fit because so much in life is fit. You know, there's a million jobs our kids could get in the workforce, but what fits your personality and your drive and your ascension? And I thought I thought he was Drew Brees with mobility. Neither throws a great deep ball, both a little undersized. And I want you to go back to your first camp, because I don't care if it's Michael Penix or it's Caleb. Now, Caleb's a little grooved in here. You know, Denver doesn't have a great roster. Some of these kids, C.J. Stroud had to wing it on the fly a little bit. I want you may have had nightmares about it and tried to suppress these memories, but go back to your first camp. I don't view Tom Brady as nervous, but was there anxiety? Were there times you thought, I'm over my skis here?
It's a great question. I think naturally as an athlete, we're all going to question as we move up to the next level. Are we capable? Are we enough? For most of the answers, I think we don't know. We're going to have to wait and see the development. And everyone asks me all the time around the draft, pre-draft, which of these kids is going to be the most successful? There's two answers. One, it's up to them. And two is, show me the people that are around them and are helping to develop them. It's not necessarily about someone's physical potential all the time. So much of it is about, can you retain information? Can you process it? Can you use the information? Are you willing to study and go through the intricate details of the game, like Drew Brees was, like Peyton Manning was, like Phillip Rivers was, like some of the all-time great John Elway was, some of the all-time great quarterbacks were. You could be very physically talented. You could absolutely go to the wrong fit and have a coach instruct you to do things that are almost impossible to do.
Right.
You can't assume that what these young athletes are being told, that every coach is the same. Some coach may have one perspective, another coach may have another perspective. So why was I fortunate? Because I came into the Patriots when Bill Belichick was there. He's the one that helped develop me. Charlie Weiss was there. He helped develop me. Later in my career, Josh McDaniels was there. He helped develop me. I could not have been the player I was without people like that impacting my career. My first year, I had Drew Bledsoe to look up to.
Yeah.
He took all the reps. I got to sit there from behind and watch him every single day. I had a real mentor to look up to in Drew. So some of these teams, and you look at Jordan Love, who I was watching some of those clips that you had on before I came on, but he had Aaron Rodgers to watch. And that's the best type of training, in my opinion. Watch someone else do it at a very high level and then try to emulate them with your own personality. Maybe a little bit of the misnomer with the draft is that these players can come in and all of a sudden become this great professional player before they've really had the training and the development. And it was rare for quite a while for rookie quarterbacks to come in and play. Maybe if you're the first overall pick, but not if you're a second rounder, a third rounder. You had a chance to be groomed. Well, we're not allowing them to do that much anymore. Now we're throwing them out there. Let's see what you can do. And it's a really challenging thing. If I was a young quarterback in this day and age, to go out there with the pressure of the agents and the families, the schools, the social media, the fans, the coaches, the owner, how do these kids live up to that? I think it's a real challenge for these young quarterbacks. Hopefully they go into a system that can embrace them, that can fit and mold who they are. Hopefully they have coaches around them that can develop them in the best possible way.
So the Chiefs are looking to do something that's never been done. And I grew up in the 70s, so it's hard for me to believe sometimes the Steelers didn't win 3 straight championships. You couldn't score on them. Forget Swan and Bradshaw and Franco Harris. You couldn't score on them. And then there were Raider teams with Stabler and the Niners and the Cowboys and your teams. So I want you to go to the years that you won a Super Bowl. Let's stay in New England. Because in Tampa, you brought everybody back, which can actually work the opposite, where you get too comfortable. In New England, and Julius Edelman, who's become a friend, talks about this some, could you tell, Tom, in the camp after you won a Super Bowl, would there be days you'd be driving home thinking, man, that was a bad practice. We got a Super Bowl hangover. Did you fight that? Could you sense that?
To win a Super Bowl is extremely challenging, as we know. Even when you look at the way the Chiefs won the Super Bowl last year against the 49ers, it was an incredible comeback, so to speak. They played really well at the end. The margin of error was razor thin.
Yeah.
And that's the way it's going to be this year for them as well. It's very rare. I mean, I would play on an undefeated team. We were the best team, I think, one of the best in the history of football in 2007. We go to the Super Bowl. We play less than our best game. The Giants play an awesome game, and they end up beating us. All these teams in the NFL are very competitive. They're all well coached. The margin of error is razor thin. So to win one Super Bowl is extremely difficult. To win 2 back-to-back, what the Chiefs have done, I mean, as we know in the history of the sport, nearly impossible. To win 3 in a row, there's a reason why no one's done it. The reason why you haven't won 3 in a row, because it's hard to win 1 in a row. So to put 3 of those together in back-to-back-to-back seasons with drafting last, a very hard schedule, all the turnover in free agency, guys continuing to be motivated, it's a big challenge. And that's nothing to say that the Chiefs couldn't accomplish that. Believe me, everybody would probably put them as one of the odds-on favorite to do it. But even that, there's not a 50% chance of that happening. There's way less than that. Those players are going to have to show up every day. They're going to have to put the work in like they have. Fortunately, they have a tremendous coach in Andy Reid who doesn't ever look backward. He's not going to say, hey, we're going to, because we were great last year, we're going to be great again this year. He has a very veteran, experienced, championship-level coach who holds those guys accountable. They've got a great quarterback in Patrick that, as we know, when he's on the field, he's as great as the football player there is in the NFL. Travis Kelce, what he can do at the tight end position, it's really a great safety blanket. Rashee Rice coming on as a rookie. Chris Jones. I mean, they've got Spagnuolo back there as a D coordinator. So they have a lot of great pieces, but to win it all again is a momentous task. No one's going to put it past them, but we're all excited to show up and watch on opening day and see what version of the 2024 Chiefs, what they can do and the goals they can set for themselves and whether they can reach them.
One of the things you noticed, and again, I think you're a compartmentalizer. I kind of sometimes watch you. There are certain celebrities. Jerry Seinfeld has this. I watch your brain, how it works, and you tend to isolate stuff, compartmentalize it, become an expert at it, and that's why I think you'll be very good at broadcasting. One of the things you identified in Tampa was we got to get a right tackle. I need a blocking tight end. I want a power running back. You identified, because the roster was good, but they had some holes. They had a very good center guard, Jensen. That was the strength of the team, and really young linebackers, a little young in the secondary, but you identified clearly, you and the coaches, Jason Light did. One of the pushbacks I have said on Aaron Rodgers, I said Stafford went to a great O-line. Tommy went to a great O-line or made it one.
Yeah.
Russell Wilson did not, and Aaron did not. And my belief is this is why Kirk Cousins to Atlanta works. Excellent young O-line. I worry that when you get older, you got your money, you may be married, you don't want to get hit. And that shaky O-line to a 40-year-old quarterback off an Achilles surgery. I remember the year that you got hurt, you came back. The first 6 or 7 games, I would watch you. You didn't like people around your knees. I do think that all I care about the Jets is that O-line. Does that concern you with Aaron, that it's either old dudes or rookies? And there are not a lot of guys in their prime on that O-line in New York.
So the offensive line is such an important part of every great football team. If you show me a great football team that doesn't have a great O-line, it probably doesn't exist very often. If you are, you're pretty lucky, and you better have incredible strengths everywhere else. And the reason why is that offensive line is really, they facilitate what happens on every run play. It's really up to them. Can they displace the line of scrimmage? Can they push the D-line back? And then in pass protection, when it's a must-throw situation, can we give our quarterback a chance to stand in there comfortably and make the reads? And when I've been playing against teams that have good O-lines, I can hear it in the meeting rooms. I sit there in the front row of every Bill Belichick meeting for over 20 years. When he was coaching our defense and we were playing a good offensive line, I knew that it was going to be a long, hard day for our defense.
Yeah.
Because in the run game, they were going to push us off the ball. They were going to create holes in space for them to run the ball well and possess it running it. And when it was a must-pass situation, that quarterback would have a chance to stand in there and make great reads. And on the flip side of that, when I heard that our defense could tee off on that other O-line and we can really hold up in the run game with not as many bodies as we needed to, I knew we were going to get a chance to force the quarterback into mistakes, and we were going to have the ball a lot in terms of possession because they were going to be punting the football a lot. So the choice is always made with, I was fortunate. I had a lot of great offensive lines in my career. I played with guys. I had a lot of confidence in them up front. Certainly the center position is extremely important. It's such a unique relationship the center and the quarterback have. I loved all those guys I played with. They were up front. They were getting everyone coordinated. And when I felt like they had things under control up front, it gave me a lot of confidence to stand back in the pocket. So choosing a good team with a good O-line is paramount to the success of a quarterback. You're not going to have a good season if your offensive line can't hold up in protection. And I know when I was at Tampa, when we beat them in the Super Bowl, the Chiefs, that is, they really struggled up front. They had a lot of injuries that year. Andy Reid and Brett Beach decided to come back, revamp that O-line, and they played tremendous football since. They really invested in their offensive line. Joe Thuney came on board. Last year they brought in Donovan Smith.
Yep.
And they really revamped that line. And look at the way Pacheco ran, even though he wasn't a high pick. Patrick could stand in there and make throws down the field. So they've got to continue to do that. All these teams need to make an investment in coaching the O-line and developing the O-line. And that's going to be the key to a lot of offensive success this year.
Okay, let's look at the schedule for Fox. So it gets released. We know you're doing the Cowboys Cleveland Browns game. So you got a pretty high-profile game there with Dak Prescott. But if we show it on the screen, the Fox schedule. So when you play, you obviously watch some stuff. Maybe if you have a late-night game, you watch the red zone. But during your career, now you're going to go headlong into this stuff. But during your career, I sit with a notepad for 8 hours on Sunday. I've got no social life. How closely did you watch the other teams outside of film, Tommy? And I'm not talking about film study. And you didn't play in a lot of 1 o'clock games. You were usually on the late games because they want to get Mr. Brady on TV. How closely did you watch personnel, or have you had to play catch up?
I watch every game. I try to pay attention and follow every team every week. That was our job. That was to understand the whole league, the perspective. Every game counts. Those games meant whatever games. They meant a lot to the division standings. Ultimately, because our team was very competitive, the conference standings were very important. You didn't look too much beyond that, and we never talked about the playoffs and so forth. But I knew what every division opponent was doing every week, where there were upsets, where there were injuries. Those were all very important to the success of our team. You have to win your division first. That's your best path toward the second round of the playoffs, is winning your division. Of course, doesn't always need to happen that way. A lot of teams have proven that wrong. But at the same time, if you beat those other 3 teams in your division, you got a great chance to advance to the second round of the playoffs. So I paid attention then. I'm paying attention now. All these games we're going to have some perspective on as we go through the season. I'm very excited about our Fox slate that I'm involved in. We got some incredible games. We got Chiefs at the 49ers. Looking forward to that. We got a bunch of Dallas games. We have Dallas and the Lions. Some really Dallas and the Ravens I'm doing. So a lot of the teams that I've had a lot of familiarity with, but also having Dallas on our roster is extremely important they just draw a lot of eyeballs, and I'll be excited to cover those games.
Well, have fun with your fam. Looked like I saw one of your kids back there. Great seeing you, Tom. I can't wait to see you in the building. And I know you're on vacation, and I'm just taking time that you would otherwise be having a good time, and I appreciate it.
Hey, great to be with you. Good to see you working on Memorial Day, and thanks to all the incredible people and very resilient families that have sacrificed a lot for us in this great day that we celebrate with our families as kind of the unofficial start of summer. So hope everyone's enjoying their day.
All right, Tom Brady for 20 minutes. Certainly appreciated that.